Now, today is World Food Day, and agricultural cooperatives are the focus this year. The theme was chosen to highlight the role of cooperatives in improving food security and contributing to the eradication of hunger. For more perspective on the struggle against global hunger and malnutrition, we're joined by Asma, Lateef, Director of Bread for the World Institute. Ms. Lateef, welcome to In Focus.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good that we have a World Food Day today.
Yes, it's a very important moment each year to take stock of the progress that we've made in the fight against hunger, but also to look at the challenge ahead. And just recently, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations released a report called The State of Food Insecurity in the World. And it was actually filled with good news. We've made tremendous progress against hunger in the last 2 to 3 decades.
And it looks like if you consider this year's themes as it's focusing on cooperatives, it looks like this is one strategy that could help especially people in the poorer countries to kind of pool resources or pool their ideas together in order to feed themselves.
Absolutely. The issue of hunger is not one of lack of food availability, but it's about raising incomes of poor people. And the majority of the world's poor people live in rural areas. So giving them the tools that they need to increase their livelihoods by increasing their farming productivity is critical, and agricultural cooperatives provide a support network and a way of pooling resources and knowledge to make that happen.
And how do they work? How can they be more effective? We know that these cooperatives actually do exist in some or many African countries, for example, but still people go hungry. So how can they be made more effective to achieve the maximum benefit?
I think that it's an issue of scaling up. Where you have cooperatives, they're really making a big difference. I think during the food price crisis, it was evident that farmers who were organized in a cooperative fared much better than farmers that were not. And so I think with the recent focus at the international level on agriculture and food security and rising investments in agricultural development, it's critical that some of those resources be aimed at creating cooperatives, expanding cooperatives where they are, because cooperatives really help build resilience in communities.
Yes. Now, we do have two paradoxes here, I think. First, the fact that there's so much food in the world, but people go hungry, but also that there is food, but sometimes people are malnourished, although, you know, there is food, but they're not eating well.
Yes, and I thank you very much for bringing that up. I think it's a really important point. And there are opportunities as we think about how to invest in agriculture and help smallholder farmers to also educate them about the importance of nutrition. And we've learned so much in recent years through research that if you miss that critical 1,000-day window between pregnancy and age 2, you affect a child's lifelong capabilities and productivity. And this is a crisis not just for children, but in countries where there's a high level of malnutrition, it becomes an economic issue for that country. So I think as we think about, you know, building on the progress we've made against hunger over the last few decades, really thinking about integrating programs so that you are both increasing farmer income but also improving nutrition at the same time.
We know that organizations like Cures are at the forefront of fighting for those who cannot either have access to food or eat proper food. But do you get the sense that governments, especially in the developing countries, are fighting the hard fight to make sure that their people get food and that they don't have to be waiting for international organizations to come trying to mitigate for them?
You know, I think there's been a tremendous change over the last, I'd say, 8 to 10 years. Next year is the 10th anniversary of the Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program, CAADP. And that's, you know, that was the first Africa-wide initiative really to focus attention on the need for agricultural development. there's a commitment by governments to put in their own resources and devote up to 10% of their budgets on agriculture. So not all governments are there. Some are much further along than others, but I think this is a tremendous step forward. And as we think about the 10th anniversary of CAADP and how do we learn from the lessons of the past and new knowledge that we have, thinking about how to strengthen these the existing plans and programs, and integrating important issues like nutrition into agriculture.
So let's hope those government can consider every day World Food Day for their people.
Absolutely.
Don't you think
Absolutely.
so? Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Lateef.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks a lot. And Ms. Lateef, Ms. Asma Lateef is the Director of Bread for the World Institute, and she joined us here today on In Focus. And